2-minute warning. If we could start to find our seats, slowly wrap up our conversations. Let's not come to a dead halt because we have 2 minutes. Thank you. Let's find our seats. I've got 1 o'clock, and we have quorum in the room, so we can go. Greg, will you gavel in for us, please? Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to help.
I don't even know what to do anymore. I just feel like I've lost the plot. Michelle is right up here. Okay. Welcome to Hilton Head, everyone. We've got a great agenda today. Before I turn it over to Greg for his update, I want to do what has become a tradition for us. We'll go around the table. We'll just state a name and affiliation so everybody knows who everyone is, and we can all get to know each other just a little bit better. And I'm going to start with Greg, who is furiously typing notes and was not ready for me to turn to him.
No, it's fine.
But you are now.
I'm ready. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Looking forward to a great meeting. I'm Greg Murray. I am the chair of the CAB.
I'm Charles Hilton, and I'm the vice chair of CAB.
Michelle Bush, CAB. I'm Phyllis Brett. I'm the chairman of the FDSR committee.
Kim Ray, CAB member.
Narendra Malik, CAB member.
Juanita Campbell, and I'm the chair of the Administrative and Outreach Committee.
Steve Riley, CAB member.
Jim Gill, chair of the Nuclear Materials.
Hi, I'm Shelley Stansel with Georgia DNR Environmental Protection Division.
Welcome.
Madeline Kellett, South Carolina DHEC Midlands Aiken Office. Good afternoon. I'm Susan Fulmer, South Carolina DHEC. I'm in the central office, and I'm the Federal Facility Agreement Manager for the state.
Mike Budney, I'm the manager of the Savannah River Operations Office for Environmental Management.
Amy Boyette, Director of the Office of External Affairs and the Deputy Designated Federal Official for the CAB. I love saying that.
John Richards, EPA Region 4, Atlanta. I'm the FFA Lead Project Manager for EPA.
Ronna O'Brien, Facility Disposition and Site Remediation Vice Chair.
Ken Sejuan, CAB member.
Carolyn Fortson, CAB member. Bobby Williams, Vice Chair, Administrative and Outreach Committee.
And John Thomas, CAB.
All right, and I am James Tanner. I'll be your facilitator today. I work for the Department of Energy in the Office of External Affairs for Amy. Greg, you have an update for us today?
I do. All right, again, thank you everybody for being here. I wanted to thank the CAB members for being here, for joining us in Hilton Head for this nice meeting we're getting ready to do. I appreciate everything you do for our communities and the CAB. Thank you, subject matter experts, agency folks, for being here and sharing your knowledge with us. We appreciate it and we learn from it, and I think it benefits our communities. Just real quick in terms of any kind of chair update that I might have, just to let you know, Charles and I were scheduled to go to Oak Ridge for the National Chairs meeting, and I can't remember, it was September or August. August or September, do you remember?
September, in the September, beginning of October.
Yeah, and that got canceled because of the concerns over the budget. So that was canceled, and it doesn't sound like that will be rescheduled, which is disappointing, but that's the way government works sometimes. I did a couple of weeks ago, or a week or two ago, I guess it was, there's been some sort of question about how SRS, and I guess actually probably more broadly DOE, deals with public outreach. So I did about an hour-and-a-half interview with the Government Accountability Office on that, and I think that went pretty well, and who knows what they're going to say about that. One thing that interestingly came out of that, I don't know if James has shared, but they're doing a study of H Canyon, which has been a source of discussion that we've had, and the GAO's report on H Canyon, they told me during the interview it was going to come out at the end of this year. So here in the next month or so, we should be hearing sort of their opinion on what's going on at H Canyon. And then finally, I learned at the executive committee meeting that there was some interest in restarting the post, what would we call it, the post full board meeting surveys. So look for that after this meeting. I don't know if I'll be able to get it done Wednesday night or Tuesday night, but I'll try to get it out in the day or so after we finish meeting. So look forward to that. So again, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for your attention. Have a great meeting, and let me know if I can help in any way.
Okay. Any questions for Greg before we move along? Okay. At the end of this meeting, I'm going to ask your opinions about how everything went. So in order to help get that started, to get you folks thinking about it, I know, I see your face. You're thinking, we said we weren't going to do that, but we are going to do some version of it. It's okay. I saw it. It's fine. What we're going to do, though, is folks around the table, I'm going to ask you at the top of your agenda, you all walked in the room today with an intent in mind, something that you wanted to accomplish, something that you wanted to make sure was talked about, something you hope to learn over the course of the next 2 days. If you'll do me a favor, write that on the top of your agenda or the bottom, wherever. When we get to the end of the day tomorrow, those little Sonesta notepads in front of you, I'm going to ask you to just mark down, did we accomplish your goal? Did we talk about what you wanted to talk about? And we can pass those up. And anybody who wants to share it out loud with the group, we can share it out loud with the group. But I want to find out if we're meeting your expectations. You came in today, you sat down, and you intended to do something. Did we get there? So if you will, take a moment and write that at the top of your agenda over the course before we get too far away. I just want to make sure that we're hitting the notes that we need to hit. With that, are we ready to move along into our agency updates? All right. Mr. Budney, if you would, sir.
All right, good morning. Hey, so James, so far, You mean my plan was to get some lunch when I got down here, but then I had 2 emergent phone calls. But fortunately, there was a muffin in the back of the room, so all good so far. Hey, glad to be holding this meeting down here in Beaufort County. It's a downstream community of the Savannah River. It's one of our obligations to get down to these areas and hold these sorts of meetings so the public can participate if they so desire. So I'll get right to our update. One of the top objectives for the Office of Environmental Management is to complete the steel construction, the framework for the Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative. And if you've been by there, you've seen there's a lot of steel going up. It's supposed to be done by the end of this calendar year, and I'm told it will be done this week. So they're making great progress out there. They've really picked up steam, and we're very excited about that. So still on track to complete sometime maybe early summer of 2025 and get the lab moved in over there. Next, I would normally talk about transition, but we're going to have a regular presentation on that tomorrow, so I'll hold off on that. But things are going pretty well there, and we'll get you update. NSA is supposed to have a rep here tomorrow, so that way there'll be full transparency. I won't say anything without them in the room, and it should work out just fine. We're still living off the continuing resolution. It's effect through November 17th. So we'll see what happens to that. So moving on to some specific operational achievements. L area continue to receive fuel from both domestic and foreign research reactors. H Canyon is making great progress for the Japanese Fast Critical Assembly project. They're completing cold runs of the electrolytic dissolver that they've installed there, and preparing to initiate the readiness assessment for the startup of that capability. So we're tracking that very closely, and it looks like they'll be able to start actually processing fuel in the late spring. H Canyon exceeded their dissolutions of spent fuel for FY23. We had 10 planned, they did 10 and a half. K area work is going great. We had a target of 100 down blends in FY23. They did 115. We're going to try to get to 120 in the fiscal year 24. And we're making shipments of the material, down blended plutonium, out to WIP. In FY23, we completed 13 shipments. So we have 28 planned for FY24, and we've already completed 1. In addition, we did 13 other true waste shipments to WIP in FY23. And you'll be hearing more about that program with Carrie Crawford during this meeting. Pretty good progress on the liquid waste program. Of course, we got SDU 8 completed. SDU 9 should be completed, I think, around the February timeframe. So great progress on the SDUs. We have seen improvements in the processing rate for the salt waste processing facility. We had a couple 30-day periods where we're doing greater than 400,000 gallons per month. That's the kind of rate we're looking to maintain. Still got some work to do there on maintaining that at a consistent basis. F-area diversion boxes 5 and 6 were closed. Final documentation accepted by the regulator. So thanks for that, Susan. Appreciate it. We do have the 2 big task orders now in place, task orders 6 and 7, which will carry the majority of the liquid waste program for the next 8 years. So it's a big achievement to get those two large task orders in place. It includes key performance indicators, metrics, financial incentives to drive us towards mission completion by 2037. We did process 3.18 million gallons through SWPF in fiscal year 23, nearly twice the amount done in the prior year. And SWPF has processed nearly 7.5 million gallons since it started up. We're continuing to work you've seen that climb to 9 chart, shows all the changes we got to make to SWPF and DWPF as we try to get the processing rate up just as high as we can. The next thing we'll be doing is the next generation solvent phase 1. So we'll be changing some chemistry processes. It really does everything except, phase 1 does everything except replace the solvent itself, which would be done during a phase 2. But that should help decrease equipment fouling, which should increase SWPF availability and long-term processing rates. I already discussed the SDUs. Defense waste processing continues to make improvements to reduce cycle times, and we're working on getting approval to increase the maximum waste loading in the canisters, and improving the equipment reliability. In FY23, 78 canisters were leak checked, so it was good progress there. And we also completed the merging of the two control stations that we had, one for effluent treatment facility and the salt zone production facility. Now it's now we have one control room for both those facilities, and they've changed the name to the end stream delivery. So merging those two operations provided additional flexibility and to now process decontaminated salt solution on either day or night shifts and to extend runs across more than one shift. So great progress there, and a great move by the contractor to be more efficient in their operations. And tank preparation continues. We have all year. We got about 15 tanks in progress right now simultaneously. And in this past year, we also made progress in our accelerated basin inventory, getting the first material over into sludge batch 11. And we anticipate receiving the next ABD discharges in the second quarter of fiscal year 24. We started the deer hunts again. In this year, in order to try to maintain a healthy deer population, reduce vehicle collisions, we're going to have 9 SRS deer hunts. They started this past Friday, and they'll run through December 15th. On November 17th, we'll have one for mobility impaired veterans. And as always, we'll monitor all the animals before we release them back to the hunters. And finally, a follow-up on a notice of a violation we told you about at the May cab, and that was due to a delayed NPDES wet testing resulting from a misinterpretation of the testing due date. The testing's been done on October 17th. They submitted the test to DHEC, and I think we've met our obligations there, and no issues were found related to that test. So subject to your questions, that's what I got for an update today.
We have any questions from around the table? Greg?
Greg Murray, CAB. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the update. I was thinking in terms of the National Chairs meeting that was supposed to be at Oak Ridge, and obviously that was disrupted. I'm wondering what was disrupted out at SRS as a result of that budget debacle?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No. I mean, we were making preparations in case we didn't get a CR, but the CR came in time, and we just kept moving right along.
Yeah. So did you, I mean, did you, I don't know, you didn't adjust any schedules or anything?
No.
Okay. Are you anticipating?
I think it was a little bit, yeah, I think your travel being canceled was about the only thing that happened. Yeah, I think it was personal, but just
they said, we don't want Greg and Charles to go to Tennessee, so we're going to cancel all that. All right. Are you expecting anything for this upcoming one that seems likely to me to happen?
I just don't have any information.
Okay.
Nothing that you don't. I get all my news about this from the newspaper, just like everybody else.
Well, I know, but I was thinking that you guys would have to do some sort of planning. We're 2 weeks away from it, as I recall.
Yeah, it'd be the same plan we had ready for when the last issue came up. So everything's about the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you.
We'll go to Steve.
Thanks for the update report. The whip canister that was returned to you guys, what has ever happened with that thing?
We're still working with WIP to figure out what the issue was there. That's about what I got right now. We're bringing their team out to look at it, see how we do the procedure, and try to sort out what the issue was, but we don't have a firm answer yet.
Okay. Charles?
Charles Hilton, cab. You mentioned that the electrolytic dissolver hopefully will go online sometime late spring. I'm curious, I know this is mainly for the Japanese waste, I believe. Is there any plans to also look at the inventory of non-aluminum clad rods in Ale at the same time you got the thing running and try to get rid of some of that?
Well, we'll do all the Japanese material first, and when that's done, then we'll be able to process our material that fits in that dissolver.
Well,
So, yeah, we are planning to use it.
Okay.
Right. But I don't know if I got...
Yeah.
I think, Kurt, we got a couple, 3 years to process the Japanese fuel, don't we?
Yes, sir. I'm Kurt Gardner. We do have a substantial amount of work to do, but afterwards we do have several non-aluminum fuel types that are compatible with that. So we're working on the ones that are compatible now to line those up subsequent to the Japanese. And then we have some other fuels that we think we might be able to process through those, and we're working on what does it take for us to also add some of those materials in. But yes, sir, we are absolutely doing that.
Thank you. I've got a follow-up if...
Go for it.
All right, the second question deals with, as always, the salt waste processing facility. You mentioned the last couple of months you've got the increased production of 400,000 gallons per month, which equates to 4.8 versus your 3.18 production this year. Is that something that you feel at this point now is sustainable to ramp it up that much? Are you hopeful?
Yeah, I think it is sustainable. The issue is the same technical issue we've been having with these cross-flow filters. They get clogged up with material faster than we anticipated. So a number of things going on. One, chemistry, is there a way to adjust the chemistry so it doesn't happen? The lab's helping us. Is there a way to adjust the feed so that there's less fouling that can increase the rate? The contractor's gotten much better and is continuing working on how to be more efficient at cleaning those filters so there's less downtime when they do need cleaning. We can get in and out of them more quickly. They do have a plan to actually make the filters bigger, to lengthen them, so we'll have more surface area and be able to put more material through there. And a number of other things the lab's looking at as possibilities that may help us there. So that is really the challenge we have right now, is just getting those filters to operate more efficiently.
Any other questions for Mike from around the table? Sir, thank you. Let's move on down the line. We'll go to EPA. John?
John Richards, EPA Region 4. I did mention in our last meeting, but just echo presence. We made a lot of, more than our normal targets, especially for Savannah River, where in our region targets are a lot of our major Superfund milestones, and the big ones are the record of decision type documents. So as mentioned in the last meeting, we had one scheduled in ESD. That's the ones that are minor changes in a record of decision. And then we had in the in-area record decision that was due in December. We were able to get that actually signed by all parties in September. So not only a couple months early, but earlier fiscal year, which helped us tremendously. and then another ESD for the diversion boxes. Again, that was not scheduled till next year, that we were able to get done last fiscal year in September. We just received the South Carolina sign, which means DOE's already signed it for the current 5-year review. So you may recall or may not that every year we have a 5-year review on some of our remedial categories. There's so many remedial actions at Savannah River. Oak Ridge now does the same, that instead of a big 5-year review once every 5 years, we now have 5 different categories that rotate. So they're every 5 years, but essentially we have one per year. So the one that just finished and now I'm routing now for signature of my division director is for operational equipment remedies. We don't have any issues with that or any major concerns. All of our comments were addressed, so we don't expect any change before the final signature on that. And then the next one comes, again, those are usually due in December, and the next one comes in December, and that'll be natural soil covers. So we've already had a scoping meeting on that one, and we'll get the document usually right before into the calendar year, and then we'll have a walk down with drones and et cetera, a site meeting in February to assess all the different actions and remedies for natural soil covers. I think that's all. A lot of you in the last CAB meeting met Brianne Martin. She was our new project manager, and she's now been given the role that Deidre Lloyd, that's been doing D area for many, many years. She's got some of her own sites, some added to her. So now that she's going to do one last help with us with a D area meeting in November, but then she's going to rotate off Savannah River to do her other project manager work, and Brianne Martin will be working on L area. We have a meeting coming up this Thursday at the L area reactor, A area, and D area that she'll be rotating in as the lead for that. Any questions?
Any questions for John? Seeing none. We can always come back, though, if we need to. All right, thank you, John. Up next, South Carolina DHEC. Susan?
Hello. So as John mentioned, we just, DHEC also just reviewed the 5-year review. It's the 6th 5-year review remedy report for the operating equipment sites. And so we've reviewed that and have approved it and signed it and sent it on to EPA for their signature. We also recently approved the fiscal year 23 budget allotment for environmental compliance and area completion projects and Federal Facility Agreement Revision 0, Appendix D. So that was the work for FY23. We're getting ready to review the Appendix E for FY24, which is going to be the long-term projection work for for next year and the following year, and then some out years as well. So we'll be looking at that. We'll also be looking at Appendix C, G, K of the FFA, which were submitted from DOE in September to us. On the liquid waste side, as part of the dispute resolution agreement for the saltstone permit, DOE was required to conduct supplemental tank closure activities related to the tank closure cesium removal, or TICR Unit 1. So those activities included a technical feasibility and economic efficiency evaluation and a commitment to use TICR 1 on an additional tank if the evaluation indicated that it was feasible and efficient to do so. So DOE recently submitted a report to DHEC regarding the activities that they conducted on TICR Unit 1 or conducted with TICR Unit 1. And on October 31st, DHEC approved completion of the TICR 1 supplemental tank closure activity. So that part of the dispute resolution agreement has been completed. And then from the Aiken office, they are working on the annual ESOP report, and that should be completed by the end of the year, and then will be available for review for you. Any questions for me?
Okay, Seeing none. We don't have it on the agenda, but I wanted to offer some time for Georgia DNR. If you had anything that you wanted to tell the board about or just introduce yourself a little bit more, please.
Thank you, I appreciate the time. The only update I have really is from the state of Georgia, as we, in August, got a new commissioner for EPD and also a new director. And the commissioner's name is Walter Rayburn, and the new director is Jeffrey Cohn. That being said, we finally got the MOU signed with Savannah Riverside, so it's on the way back to you guys. And that's all the updates I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're glad to see you.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Up next, let's go through committee updates, which are going to be very, very brief, and this is going to go very, very fast because a lot of subcommittees were canceled this month. So, Phyllis, I'm going to give you the time.
Phyllis Brett, Cab. The FDSR committee did not meet. I have received a recommendation, a proposed recommendation that'll appear on our December agenda. That's it.
See, you had more to say than you thought. All right. Jim.
Jim Gill. The Nuclear Materials Subcommittee did meet for a discussion on a draft recommendation, which we will be dealing with later on, I see on the agenda. Other than that, there's no major activity going on.
Okay. Candace?
Candace Cave, Waste Management Chair. We did not meet in October. I have nothing to report.
Candace, thy definition is haste, and mine is stumbling today. Hubert, Carlos is not here, but if you have any words for LTMB.
Very, very few words. Hopefully, before the year is out, we'll have a work plan for this committee, and also we'll be focusing heavily on the transition.
Right. Well, we've got a great update about that tomorrow. I'm really excited for that one. Okay, any questions for our committee chairs? Juanita, did you want to cover anything for Anna, or are you good? Nope, okay, yeah, I knew.
We did not meet.
I know. Yep, there we go.
And there are no updates, so thank you.
All right. Any questions for our committee chairs for any of them? Okay, I told you that would go fast. So next thing up on the agenda is a break. And you're like, man, we just started. Why do we need a break? And I'm going to tell you why we're going to take a break. Because I'm looking in the audience and I do not see our presenter yet for this afternoon. So we are going to take about 15 minutes. We're going to identify somebody, come up and give these Forest Service slides. And then we'll come back. You want to do it, Candace?
Joe,
awesome. I can't wait.
Joe is here. So
he is. He's around the corner. We're just going to go ahead and take their 15 and get everybody together. All right, so we'll be back in our seats at 1:45, and we'll be ready to do this. Thank you, folks. and let's get ready. I feel like it's been a little while since we've heard from our next presenter. It's been at least maybe a year and a half, 2 years, somewhere in there. But these are always a great presentation. I always appreciate the updates and learning a little bit more about what the Forest Service does. So rather than ramble on, I'm just going to introduce Davila Clark.
All right. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Davila Clark. I'm the Forest Manager for the U.S. Forest Service Savannah River. And bear with me, I'm just getting here. I was supposed to come down yesterday, but I decided to come down this morning. I saw I was supposed to be up around 2:45. And so I got up and was taking my time this morning. And my wife was like, you need to get there. They may be ready for you a little bit earlier. So like a smart husband, I listened to my wife and made it here just on time. So just got a few updates for you. Again, Davila Clark got a lot of information about the various activities we got ongoing right now with the forest. But what you'll see throughout our presentation is that none of this work could be achieved without the work of us working collaboratively with all of our entities on site and DOE and our publics. All of this work is done in a collaborative form, and we can't do any of it alone. So with that, I'll go into this. So like I said, these are some of the updates. This is really our first year. We were really excited since COVID. This has been a full year where we've come back and re-engaging, getting out, having the workforce back on site and doing a lot of the great work that we love to do on the site. So first, I'm going to give some highlights from our forest management program, our natural resources and planning program, and engineering and environmental services and research. And then there's a little bit more information we'll touch on about our communications program and where we're wanting to go in the future. So as it relates to our fire management program, on average, every year we burn about approximately 20,000 acres. Prescribed fire is our most valuable silvicultural treatment tool that we use to create a healthy forest, whether it's to reduce hazardous fuels or to do site prep work, or for us to allow, creating suitable wildlife habitat for our various wildlife species. Prescribed burning is a very useful tool to us, and is very economically feasible for us to do it. But we don't do it alone. The big thing for you all to hear, what we hear and like to communicate to our publics, it's a tool that we use, but it also can have some side effects as it relates to smoke management. That's been one of our biggest challenges that we face. And so with that, we've tried to improve our operations as it relates to lessen the impacts of smoke management. So what we do, we've put out some extra monitors throughout the CSRA where we get real-time data as it relates to when we're conducting burns. So we're reading the monitors and getting real-time data. So as we're progressing, when we go into a burn operation, we don't burn the whole thing all at once. We do it in blocks and in stages. And so we take that approach. So as these monitors are letting us know throughout the CSRA, if the air shed is bordering on crossing some thresh lines, we can cut the fire off and do it in a safe fashion so that we're not impacting our publics. In your packets, there's also a lot of information as it relates to our prescribed fire program, our fire program, and those operations, and it gives more of a detail about what all goes into the planning for these operations. It's a long, extensive process where it takes months for us to plan and prepare. But each one of these burns has what we call a burn plan, and it spells out the criteria that we have to meet to be in compliance with regulatory emission regulations and things of that nature. So we're using a lot of new technologies. We're also doing a better job trying to inform our publics of where we're going to be burning and when we're burning. We have Joe Orris, our public affairs officer, we post stuff like on Facebook and things of that nature where people can get real-time information about where we're at and letting them know if there is potential from our fires to have any impacts on the surrounding communities. So we're trying to continue to build off of keeping our publics informed as it relates to smoke management. Also with our fire management program, our fire program, we work a lot with cooperators. We work a lot with universities. And one of the things that we also are proud of is that we also use other Forest Service personnel from other parts of the country that also come down and help us implement these burns. Outside of the funding that we get from the Department of Energy, we leverage and bring in roughly around $400,000 worth of personnel, equipment, and things of that nature. The total cost from revenue we generate from outside resources to come help us burn those 20,000 acres is roughly around $400,000, $500,000 annually. And like I said, in exchange, we don't pay for the support that we get from other entities. Whenever we go out west, we provide support to those wildland fire suppression efforts that you may hear about. This past year, most of the activity was down in Florida, in the southeast. There wasn't much western activity, but our fire personnel go out and provide assistance to those areas as well. And what you see here, we work a lot with the youth, and we work a lot with the universities, University of Georgia, University of Clemson. It's a good way for us to bring in young people. This is a good entryway into our agency. So we use this kind of as a recruitment tool and to give these students and interns a hands-on job experience where they can count this towards preparing them for a career in natural resources. But this is one of our greatest recruiters, our fire program. They do a great job working with the youth and bringing in those young people into our agency. So we're proud about that as well. Okay, natural resources and planning. On average, we sell roughly, this past year, we sold about 50,000 CCF in forest products. That's down from what we normally do. We usually do around 80,000, 80 to 85,000. But this past year, we had a decline in what we offered that year. Is because one of the mills down in the Charleston area had went out of business, and they shut it down. And as a result, the areas where our loggers usually haul the timber to is in satellite mills around the CSRA. And as a result of that mill shutting down, we were at a point where we were planning to put more on the market, but we stay in communications with our publics, with our loggers, and with our mills to see what they look for us, how much timber they look for us to put on the markets. And so when we do that, we were learning that we were starting to flood the markets because of that one mill shutting down. So we took it upon ourselves to just say, we'll just pause for a few months and not put that much. It was a pulp mill, not to put more pulpwood sales out there where it's going to be impacting and flooding the market, and we don't have a place to ship the lumber to. So as a result, we only did 50,000 last year, and this year we'll get more back into the range of around what we've traditionally done, around 80,000 CCF. And as you can see, it talks about all the jobs that this creates. We put a lot of timber on the market, and it has a direct impact on the local economies. There's been studies that's been done to say that, on site, our timber program creates an economic impact of about $37.6 million across 6 economic sectors. So it's a big contributor. And the public and the state depends on us putting this product out on the market. And we're not out trying to high grade the forest and looking for timber volume or revenue. It's more about restoration efforts. And timber harvesting is a part of is a byproduct of our restoration efforts. So it's not the goal to just cut timber. It's all about restoration. All right. Also in our natural resources program, we're proud about our wildlife program. We have a lot of, as you see here, these are some of our events that we've had this past year, our outreach events where we go out and we have events where we bring in underserved publics. We've done hunts and fishing derbies for our first responders, our veterans, our disabled veterans, persons with disabilities, and these are some of the photos to show from some of our recent events that we've had. It's one of our treasures that we really look forward to every year. We do roughly around 4 to 5 events where we bring in publics in a controlled environment, safe experience where we get those people to be able to connect with the land. In this past year, we were recognized with receiving a Regional Foresters Award for our efforts, and we're also in the running for a national award with the Chief's Office for the great job that we do outreaching to our underserved publics. So we're proud about that. Some other things with natural resources, let me see. We got our nuisance animal program where we remove, it's all about safety. And I know people are thinking, if you're going to be safe, why is that person holding a snake up like that? It's a rat snake, but it was already dead, and so he's holding it up, just showing how long it is and how tall it is. But whenever we do go to remove these nuisance animals, there's a lot of facilities on site, and there's a lot of interactions with wildlife and encounters. So with that, we use the proper safety equipment and tools to remove them safely. Most of the time, we're able to do it without killing the animal and getting them back out in the wildlife. So we're proud of that. We had about we did about 137 calls. And this is the time of year when things are moving, when we get a lot of calls on that. But proud of the work that our staff do that, keeping the operations on site safe. In addition, we have feral hogs. That's still a big impact. We removed about 1,200 this past year. That's kind of down from previous years, but we don't do that all alone. We have contractors that also help us lessen the impacts from feral hogs that it's having on site. So we're proud of that program as well. As it relates to threatened and endangered species, as you can see, our RCW work, we're proud of that. We went from 4 in 1985 to over 700 in 2023. With that, our overall across the Southeast and where the habitat for the RCW, it's doing really well. We're anticipating that species will likely be delisted in the near future because of all the great work that we've doing managing for that T&E species. But what's not on here is that I'd like to share with you, there is some another species that we do have on the forest that's likely to be listed soon, and that's the tricolored bat. You've probably heard that there's about white nose syndrome and the impacts that it's having on our bat community. We have the tricolored bat on site. We do have populations. These bats usually range and they forage and they live in the bottomlands, in the hardwood drainages on our forests. So those areas we kind of don't do much activity in. We do some things to enhance those areas, but by them being wet and swampy, we don't do much management activities in there. So we don't, if the tricolored bat is listed, once it is listed, we don't anticipate there being much impact to our overall operations. We're currently in the process of working with the Fish and Wildlife Service, where we're consulting with them and working across the whole Southeast where the range is for these bats to develop a bat conservation strategy. It'll be a detailed plan which will also protect and give us opportunities to look to enhance the habitat for the tricolored bat. So as we get more information on that, we'll be sharing that with you in the near future. Okay, also our planning efforts, like I said, none of the work that we do alone is alone. We work in cooperation and collaborate with a lot of different entities on site. On our interdisciplinary teams where we do our planning efforts for our forest management activities, we have a host of different entities that help us in the planning phase. They're standing members. A few to name is the Savannah River Ecology Lab. And we also work with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. They also have a seat at the table and help us go through our planning operations, whether it be for timber harvesting or prescribed fire or wildlife habitat improvement projects. The whole suite of our forest management operations is done in an interdisciplinary fashion where we work and get a lot of input from different entities on site and our publics. So we're working through that. Engineering and environmental services, again, we've shared with you in the past about the work that we do down at our mixed waste facility. That facility, we've operated it since 2001. So a little over 20 years we've been running it, and on average each year we treat about 10 million gallons of treated water where we do phytoremediation. It's the process that we go through to remove that contaminated water from the groundwater. We're proud of that. With this facility, we're working with our engineering staff out of our regional office to do some upgrades to that facility. We're looking at improving and enhancing our irrigation systems. We're looking at also coming up with a system right now is manually where we have to detect if we have leaks and things of that nature, but we're going to be upgrading that system to be getting more data where we can see real time where there may be leaks and just modernizing that whole system. So we're underway with those efforts. In addition, with our engineering and environmental services program, we do monitoring and mowing of the caps. We also have some other activities in that program as well. We maintain and manage 1,300 miles of secondary road. And with that, that's an extensive road system on site that we use where we work collaboratively with all the entities and get input on which areas and which roads they're going to be needing, where we keep them in a safe, operable manner, in good shape so that they can use them and use them safely. We also are responsible for maintaining the boundary of the whole site. With that, we're excited. We work closely with the private landowners if there's some issues with the fence line and the boundary on their property. We've had some situations, we talked earlier about feral hogs and some of the damages that they can cause. We work closely with our publics there to try to identify those areas and keep those feral hogs from getting on their property and creating more issues environmentally. One thing that I'll mention as it relates to also back to our wildlife program, we're looking at working with APHIS and looking at a way where we may be able to, we've had some reports where there's been, like I mentioned here about feral hog and the damage that they cause on some private lands. We're working with, possibly working with APHIS to be able to partner. They can work on private lands and there's a lot of assistance that they can provide to private landowners to be able to minimize the impacts as a result of the feral hog damage that's taking place. We're working to possibly share a position where we can have a person on site to be able to help us on the site, but also do some work and look for opportunities to address and lessen any impacts that we're having on private lands as it relates to feral hogs. Our research program is, one of the things we always pride ourselves on is using the best available science as it relates to forest management, using the latest technologies. Our research program does a great job in those areas. Some of the things that we're studying right now is to enhance for the populations for the endangered species, to enhance biodiversity, looking at ways to also address climate change, clean water, things of the future, trying to be proactive to make sure that we got a healthy, sustainable, resilient forest that we're constantly learning and applying the best available science and where we're practicing adaptive management. One of the things we're looking at is developing a monitoring plan. We're doing a lot of activities where we're going to have a comprehensive monitoring plan where we go back, look at all of our operations and see how we're doing, how our treatments, are we getting the desired results from our activities that we're hoping for. Some of the other work that we're doing is that also with our research program, we're trying to utilize stuff like LIDAR. That's a tool that's helping us be more effective and efficient, where we don't have to go out actually and walk the terrain, where we're able to use LIDAR information to be able to determine the species and the composition and the age classes of our forests. where we don't have to send people out in the field, where we can use the latest technologies to be able to apply some of the science in our planning phases. There's some growing challenges, some challenges that we're having with that. It's not perfect. We're making some adaptations to best meet our needs there. Some other things that we're looking at doing with research program is utilizing artificial intelligence. We've recently got some new studies underway where we're doing a study in our wildlife program where one of our scientists with the Southern Research Station is working with a whole suite of universities and partners, the Ecology Lab and other entities, to look at where we're going to be enclosing like 100 acres with a fence. It's going to be 3 areas. Each one of them is going to be 100 acres in size. And so everything is kind of in a controlled environment. And on the interior, there's going to be another gate within it where there's going to be a camera where we're going to utilize artificial intelligence where there's going to be a gate that can be lowered and raised automatically by this camera being able to detect, say if some feral hogs is trying to go into a certain part of this enclosed area, it'll shut them out and keep the feral hogs and the coyotes out. And then we can monitor over a long period of time what impacts the feral hogs and coyotes are causing on the whole environment in that controlled setting. So we're excited about that. It's going to be 3 areas where we're going to use this artificial intelligence to help us, our scientists, look at what impacts these invasives are creating on our management activities and helping us make some solid decisions moving forward on how best to manage the forest. Other things, like I said, is about, as it relates to fire safety, we're looking at studying the impacts of smoke having on our firefighters as well as the public. There's a whole suite of research that is underway. This program is probably one of our best programs as it relates to bringing in outside revenue. I think that one experiment that I was talking about with artificial intelligence, there's likely going to be about $1 million worth of outside funding that's going to go into that study that's going to be long-term over the course of about 10 years that's going to be going towards our research efforts and going to be helping us with our management activities. But on average, our research program brings in close to about $2 to $3 million of funding from other universities and other funding sources to help us, like I said, practice and do some of the cutting edge of research on our site as it relates to management activities. And that's the last overview for our programs, but one of the things that I wanted to share with you all is that, like I said, the take-home message is that none of this stuff is done independent of us working with a whole suite of other partners and NGOs and publics. And one of the things that we're going to try to do is in the near future, I would like to see possibly maybe in the springtime, I think it'll be great for us to work with our cooperators and try to do like a field trip. I know I don't do it justice standing here and presenting and showing you pictures of work, but getting you all out and seeing this great work that we're doing firsthand, I think will go a long ways. And hearing from our partners, like I said, I'm only just speaking from our standpoint, but we can't do none of this work alone. We work collaboratively with our other partners and NGOs to maintain and create a healthy forest for you all and our publics. And with that, that's all. I'm running out of time.
No, we're going to do some questions.
All right. Okay.
I haven't seen so many Q&A cards
all right.
go up at one time in a while.
Okay. All
so
right.
let's start with Juanita over here,
all right.
and we'll make our way around.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Juanita Campbell.
No, Juanita's first.
What?
Hers, yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Juanita Campbell, CAB, thank you
Hi.
so much for that wonderful presentation. It's
Thank
nice
you.
to see how we are preserving our environment in such a way. I was a little more curious about how you go about maintaining the safety of the animals when you do the prescribed burns.
Usually what we'll do, we'll fly over and so what we use is aerial ignition a lot of the times on our burns. And usually once the smoke, we'll drop the balls in a certain area, But once the smoke starts to rise, the wildlife will usually shift out of that area. they usually get out of the way. For the most part, we don't anticipate much mortality, anything from those operations, but they pretty naturally just leave the area as we burn. So, yeah. But like I'll say though, the more important thing, not with us so much because we're in a gated facility, but on the national forest where it's open to the public, we really have to make sure, where if there's trails or anything like that on the interior of our burns, we make sure that we ground truth them and check them prior to our ignition operations and clear out the areas as much as possible. And usually when we ride through with the ATVs or four-wheelers, if they hear the noise and stuff like that, they usually flee from the area and they're usually out of the way before we start our operations. But good question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we can go to Narendra.
All right.
Narendra Malik, CAB.
Yes.
I have a few questions. Probably I shouldn't ask that many, but I'll ask you.
Yes.
You have secondary roads.
Yes, sir.
My first question is, how do you manage the erosion control on that? And do you use any synthetic materials like shredded tires as a surface?
Yeah, we use synthetic materials, but for the most part, we grade the road and we put out gravel. These are gravel roads. A lot of our roads, as it relates to water quality, improving water quality, we'll put in culverts, things of that nature. When there's river crossings or stream crossings, we're looking at ways to incorporate aquatic organism passages to keep those streams protected. And coming up with designs where we may do a box culvert or some other aquatic organism passage to be able to keep the water flowing and clear, where if there is any life or any fisheries in that stream, that they're not impacted. But for the most part, we do grading and putting out stone to keep those roads surface. We don't do much. One of the projects that we had, there was some road resurfacing done on site where they were having millings from that project where it was just going to go into the landfill. We're working with the Department of Energy on utilizing that material where it doesn't just go into the landfill, where we repurpose it and we put it out on our secondary roads. So we're reducing our environmental footprint, and it's also helping us with our maintenance activities. It's a more compact material than the stone that will just roll off. It's more hard surface, and it helps us maintaining those roads where we won't have to go back and do any blading or anything like that. In the long run, it's going to help us with our maintenance activities, but also, for the most part, it's going to help us with our environmental footprint, reutilizing that material and repurposing it and not having it go into the landfill.
My follow-up question is a little bit different. Do you find any new plant species in the forests? And do you work with the ecology lab to look at the biodiversity?
Yes, we do. We work closely with them on as you know, a healthy forest, the more diverse it is, the more the biodiverse it is, the healthier that system is. We work closely with our Savannah River Ecology Lab, looking at maintaining some of our set-aside areas, but also expanding outside of that, looking for ways to create and enhance the overall environment in our restoration activities.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Good questions.
We'll go to Phyllis.
All right, yes.
Phyllis Britt, CAB. I have two
Nice to meet
questions.
you. Yes.
One, on the red-cockaded woodpecker.
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard Bennett Tucker from Hitchcock Woods talk about how excited they are that they're coming back.
Yes.
What made them go away, and what are y'all doing exactly to try to lure them back?
Yeah, mainly it was the habitat wasn't there for them, and so the lack of fire across the landscape, the loss of habitat. They like open park-like settings where there's grassy understory. And so we've done a great job in increasing our prescribed burn activities. You remember at the beginning I told you how prescribed fire is one of our most effective silvicultural tools, where there was a loss of habitat for that species. And over time we've incorporated and did more prescribed burning to improve that habitat. and they're thriving on it. And but like I said, in exchange for that, the big thing is dealing with the smoke from the fires to be able to create that habitat.
Gotcha.
Yes,
Super.
but good question.
Thank
yes.
you.
Thank you.
My
Yes.
second question is, what exactly happens to the feral hogs? You said y'all dealt with 1,200 of them.
We euthanize them. We do.
Okay.
Yes.
I asked partly, my son works at Horse Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant, and they don't have an official program, but they've been told if they want to shoot them, by all means, do
Yes.
it.
Yeah, and that's what we do with them.
However,
Yes.
he also tells a story about shooting one about 5 times in the head and putting it on the truck to take it where they take such things,
Yes.
and it was still alive when
Wow.
they started to take it off the truck. Those things are tough.
They are. They really are.
So-
they really are. But
So,
good question.
okay, I wondered if y'all had some wonderful
No, that same
politically
thing.
correct
Yeah,
way,
it's
or
the same thing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Michelle.
Michelle Bush Cab, and that was my question as well. What do you do?
Okay.
Because you kept mentioning the hogs.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity for a brief period of my life to work out at the site, and in my section where I was, a hog had been spotted, and so they put up this giant cage back behind the trailers, kind of in the bushy
yeah.
area. And so I kind of changed my walking routine.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
from that point, whenever I went walking, I made sure I had my phone,
Yes.
and I always was plotting in my mind, if I saw the hog and the hog saw me, what would I do?
Oh, yes,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah.
And the only time I've ever seen a wild coyote, other than Wile E. Coyote from the
Yes,
Roadrunner, was at the site, and they were some ugly creatures.
Yes, and they
But
can
since
cause
you-
some damage
yeah,
as well.
Yes, they were ugly. And we
yes.
could see in the trailers where, how the underpinning of the trailers would
ma'am.
be damaged
Yeah.
from the wild animals.
Yes.
But so you answered the question for me about what do you do with the feral
you.
hogs. I
Yes.
see why you didn't write that in your presentation. But also I saw the term RX fire. And
Yes.
so just wondering what RX.
Yeah, prescribed fire.
Prescribed.
Like you get a prescription, so we
Prescription
write a
RX, okay.
prescription
Yeah,
for
all
the fire. You remember where I said we have a plan for each fire? So that's what our specialists do, is a specific plan for each burn area that we do. And with that, it's some information in your packet about that. We look for the right wind direction, the right temperature, the right wind speeds. There's certain criteria that we have to meet to be in compliance with on all of those before we can light any match.
All right.
It has to be in a controlled environment. So thank you, good question.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then we're going to come down this side, and we'll start with John.
Hi, sir.
John Thomas, CAB.
How you doing?
You talked about 50,000 CCF. What's a CCF?
Oh, that's a cunit.
It's not a tree.
No,
per
it's
tree.
not.
Okay.
That's a good question. I have to get my timber people to break it down, but it's roughly on average, we do, I forget how many million board feet. I can't
Okay.
convert it
All
in
right.
my head. I have to get, I'll tell you, we're the only entity that use CCF,
Okay.
the Forest Service. And that's why it's so hard to explain the conversion factor.
Right, okay.
But I'll get that information for you and tell you in million board feet. That's what the
All
others
right.
use for
Good,
that.
thanks.
Yes.
And then, as far as the habitat, because we talked about the woodpecker, and
Yes.
yet you do the controlled burns to enhance habitats.
Yes, sir.
Who else are we enhancing? What other animals?
Oh, for turkeys, turkeys like open, use fire. A lot of the wildlife species that like to look for like squirrels, like acorns and things of that nature. Whenever we go through and burn, you can see those on the ground so they can forage a lot better.
Okay.
We also use fire for like our pollinators to germinate
Right.
and things of that nature. It just has so many benefits.
Okay, good, good.
So yes.
Good. Let's see.
Take
The
your
more I
time.
wait, the questions have been asked and answered.
Oh, that's
you're
all right.
talking about 10 million gallons of water. So in what condition is the water when you're done treating it?
Well, the groundwater is contaminated with this tritium, and
Right.
so what we do is we irrigate it over a plantation of pine trees. So the roots from those trees absorb that water, and it goes up through the tree and into the leaves, and then it evapotranspirates out into the atmosphere, and it's removed
All right.
through that process, that
Okay,
evapotranspiration
good,
process. So yes.
What else?
I actually found the definition for CCF.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's
please.
Continuous cover forestry.
That's a different one.
Okay.
For timber volume, that's what we call a unit.
I think
It's
Mike
like-
has it.
It's 100 cubic feet.
It is.
100,
It's 100 cubic feet. and
Okay,
it's actually-
okay. All right. Thank you, sir. All right.
So, yeah.
All right.
And then you mentioned LINDAR. What is LINDAR technology?
LiDAR.
LiDAR.
That's our light. Let me make sure I get this right.
Or actually,
Light
is that not necessarily what the definition of that, but what is that for the feral hog, artificial intelligence?
No, we use it more for like looking at our compositions of our forest, like doing like an inventory, determining the stand, age, class, the canopy, structure. And we also they use LiDAR for many different things. It can be used for like finding artifacts and things of that nature. Underground penetrating is with the light radar.
Okay.
And the ranging, yes.
All right. And then the last thing is I'm right by the fence, so I can walk over and jump over
Okay.
it. So once I jump over it, how long before I'm apprehended?
Pretty quick. I wouldn't encourage you to jump over it. But I will say this, but speaking of the boundary and the fence, and I didn't mention them earlier, but one of the entities that works so much and does so much for us is the Centura. Our guards, as it relates to our fire program, they have the ships and everything. If we have a wildfire, sometime we'll contract out, bringing on a helicopter to be able to do reconnaissance and stuff in the prescribed burn, but it's not there year round. And under the extreme droughts and stuff, we don't necessarily have a helicopter available to us in case we have a fire or something. But Centura, that resource is there. If we got a smoke or something, a lightning strike, and we get a lot of lightning strikes, things like that in extreme drought conditions can occur. But they're there on the dime, checking it out, telling us where it's at. And but I would just wanted to put a plug in for Centura and the great job.
Good.
They're an awesome partner that help us in so many ways.
Well, thank you. It was
Thank
a
you,
very
sir.
good presentation.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right, Bobby.
Bobby Williams, CAB.
How you doing?
Thank you for your presentation. It was really good.
Thank you.
I have two questions. How many timber companies do you have on site at one time?
Loggers, yeah.
Loggers.
So we'll probably, in the busy part of our season, we'll likely have anywhere from 7 to 8. Around, sometimes it can get up to 10 or 12. Usually whenever they move on us is usually during the wet seasons, the winter and fall and things of that nature. On the summertime, because we got sandy soils. So our soils drain fast, so they can pretty much operate year round. So on private land where there's more clay soils and it's doing a lot of erosion damage and things of that nature, if you don't have those sandy soils, they don't want to do logging there. So they'll come over on site. So usually during the fall and winters and things in spring, early spring, we'll have anywhere from 10 to, on average, around 7 or 8 loggers. And those entities usually have about one fellow buncher and 2 skidders and about 7 or 8 logging trucks. So you're looking at probably around 40 to 50 personnel at one time overall.
And my second question is, I recall some years ago, and I can't remember what year it was, and I know you've done your research and your forecasting on prescribed burns, but on 278, Highway 278, there was a super fog one morning.
Yes.
And have you had any of those?
Yes, ma'am.
Since that time, because I was caught in that super fog, so.
Yes, and so that's a good point. A lot of times, so the smoke is a big challenge for us. So what we do is we not only look at the weather patterns for that day, but like what you're speaking on, we have to look at the forecast for the next day and days ahead. Because like you said, that smoke in the evenings, whenever it'll settle down and it'll follow drainages, and when it hits with the fog, I've worked down on the coast of South Carolina before I came here, and I mean there would be like smog out in California. You couldn't see your hand this close to your face, and we've had accidents unfortunately as a result of that. But we monitor that and we look at the weather patterns for the days for that week. and try to, if we're going to have what they call an inversion that night, where it's going to be a cloud cover where the smoke doesn't rise and get out of there, it hits that ceiling and it just falls back down and it'll sop in a whole area. We try to mitigate those things and try to stay out of that from happening. And what we do also is we have what we call smoke patrol. So what we'll do is you'll probably see the signs on the road saying smoke ahead, warning. We put those things out, but we also have contingency plans where in the worst case scenario, if it was to sop in an area, where we could get out there and shut the road down and keep the public from going into the smoke and putting them on a detour route to go around where they can travel safely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Good question. Good questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Donald?
Don Colson, cab.
Yes, sir.
I'm up from the Savannah area where recently the yellow-legged hornet has been discovered.
Okay.
Half a dozen nests on the coast have been eradicated, but it's a big concern.
Oh.
Does the Forest Service have a surveillance responsibility for that?
Not that I'm aware of,
Invasive-
sir. Yeah.
Invasive species?
Like if it were on national forest land, we would have a role to play in protecting and enhancing that habitat. So I'm quite sure. I haven't heard of the species. This is the first time I'm hearing it. But if it is something that we can enhance and do some things to do like pollinators and things of that nature, we would try to create that suitable habitat. Yeah. Now, as far as managing populations and things that's more along the lines of Fish and Wildlife Service and things of that nature, we're more in the management of the habitat for the various species.
Well, they're going to eat all of your pollinators.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Right now, I think they've destroyed all the nests that they found.
Oh, wow.
But
Mhm.
it's an invasive species from Asia.
Okay.
So
Mhm. All right.
just in the
We'll do what
recent
we
news.
can to try to prevent it from spreading and having an impact on us. Thank you, sir.
Candace?
Candace Cave Cab. So now that we have determined that the wild hogs are not rehomed and they are euthanized, what happens next? So after they've been euthanized, where do you dispose of them? Do you process them? Do you test them? What happens?
Well, we'll put them out in certain locations, and then the vultures and things will come in.
That is cool.
Yeah, and it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Some of y'all.
Okay.
So yeah.
So my other question.
What's that? Can you? Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So my other question was, does the prescribed burns negatively impact other species? Or so I know we're doing it to enhance some species, but is there a con to it?
Overall, I wouldn't say so. One of the things we have to think about is the timing when we do the burning. You remember the question she asked about the wildlife and how do they get out of the area? So we try to avoid whenever certain species are breeding and laying like eggs and like your young turkeys. That's been one of the things is the time that we normally burn is usually when the turkeys are laying their young and things of that nature. And so we try to avoid that impact as best we can. But it's all about the timing of the year and stuff. But for the most part, if there's any, I'm not aware of really any, there's so many benefits to prescribed burn. I'm not aware of any that just come to mind that say they do not like fire. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's
Yes.
talk about the tritium trees. Okay?
Yes.
So does the tritium being filtered through the trees harm species like maybe the red cockaded woodpecker or something like that?
No, because like I said, we don't currently in that area. We planted these areas. We currently don't have RCWs in that area. They're usually in the management areas where we have that are away from this facility. So we don't have any. But I mean, if they moved in there, they like pine trees and it's open, so it would enhance. It wouldn't hurt them. They just live in the tree, but we're not, we don't have them going and drinking from the water, so they're kind of a ways from that management area.
And finally, what type of trees are are we using for the filtration of the tritium? Is it longleaf pine? What type of tree?
It's a loblolly pine.
Loblolly.
Another southern yellow pine. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And just for reference, that's called the phytoremediation project.
Yeah.
And I'm only clarifying because I saw
Okay.
Amy's face when you said tritium trees.
Okay, yeah, all right.
She's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
read that in the paper tomorrow. Please
Thank
don't.
you, yeah, yeah.
I'll do better, James.
Thank you. Phytoremediation.
All right.
All right, Jim?
Yeah, as you go through all your planning process and management plans, how are you being impacted by global warming?
It's really having a big challenge, posing a big challenge for us as it relates to our hardwood species, because it's hotter and it's drier, and we're trying to be proactive in creating, like I was saying in particular, like say for instance with where I was saying about the tricolored bat, like in these swampy drainage areas where we have our hardwood composition, most of our hardwood composition. As things get drier and those areas start to drying out and other species coming in, pines encroaching on those areas, it can create some challenges for us. So we're trying to find, like, if there are areas that do hold more water. You remember I said we have draining soils, and so we don't have much of an option as it relates to our hardwood species. And the drier it gets, the more challenges it's going to be for us to promote our oak and hickories and yellow poplars and things of that nature.
So really, it's the water availability
Yes.
that drives your planning changes.
Correct, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, good question.
Coming back up around. Kim?
All right, yes. How you doing?
Hi, Kim Ray Cab. You mentioned a little while ago that you have fires sometimes caused by lightning.
Yes.
But I know in California, one of the big problems is with California Power and Light, and their
Yes.
power lines coming down in brushy areas that
Mhm.
didn't get cleaned up and so forth like that. I know the site makes a lot of their own power. Do we have any contractors that bring power lines across your
We have
areas?
power lines, yes, ma'am. We have power lines, and we maintain those. As you'll see in your pamphlets, in your information there, some of the things that we're doing, we're using those for like pollinators, habitat, wildlife strips, things of that nature. We're in pretty good shape, as well as those right-of-ways being maintained and not creating a hazard for us if we hit extreme drought situations. But good question, yes. But we do, trust me, it can go weeks. Look at right now, we hadn't had rain in some time, and this time of year, things are warming up and we're getting drier, and we find ourselves in more. That's another point to his question about climate change. Is creating drier situations, and so fuels are more combustible in those situations. So all the more reason for us to have a more robust prescribed fire program to keep those hazardous fuel levels down, so that when we do, and if we do have a lightning strike, that we can get in there and do it safely and keep it small and minimal, where these fires aren't rolling and we're faced with the challenges they are out in California. Because that's a big challenge that they're faced with, is not having that prescribed burn in those areas. Fire not having a presence is creating a bigger hazard for them. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Phyllis?
You mentioned vultures putting the dispatched hogs out for vultures. How many vultures do you have on site? You had 1,200 hogs last year, and the vultures took care of them all?
Yeah. Well,
how much do they eat?
About 1,200 hogs
Quite a
worth.
bit, yeah.
About 1,200 hogs worth.
Yeah, apparently. That boggles my mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Interesting.
All right, good questions. Yes.
All right,
Yes,
Charles?
sir. How you doing, sir?
Charles Hilton, Cab.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Budney has given us some updates on y'all's disabled kids program for hunting and fishing.
Yes, sir.
I want to just personally thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know of a program out there that I support more than this.
Yes.
To allowing kids and
Yes, sir.
wounded warriors
Yes.
to be able to get in and enjoy the
Yes.
forest. So kudos to y'all and whoever's involved in that program.
Yes.
It's
Thank you for
unbelievable
that.
what
Yeah.
y'all are doing to get people that are otherwise not able to get into it.
Yes, sir.
I've lived in the forest all my life.
Yes.
And I know what it is to enjoy it.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Second
for
thing
that.
is a question that was a little interesting to me. On one of your slides, you said, you do the timber harvesting and seeding planting, and you're converting from slash pines to longleaf, which is short-term timber versus long-term timber. I know this is the region for
Yes.
the early region for
Yes.
longleaf. Is it just a conservation thing, or will it return?
It is.
Return a bigger investment over a period of 70 or 80 years during the harvest cycle?
Yeah, it's more about transferring that desired future condition is more about what the area looked like and what species were present pre-European settlement. And so we're trying to get more of the native species back across the landscapes, and that's why we're trying to remove the slash pine and replace it with the long leaf pine. And it's, yeah, so that, yeah, but it is, you make an excellent point. It is, we are moving our rotation age, and that's where he's talking about how long we manage before we clear cut or remove that tree and replant and things of that nature. We're going more so from, if we were all about production and timber value, what you likely would see on a paper company's land would be somewhere around a 50, 60-year rotation, where you grow it and you thin it and then you clear cut it and you start over in about 60 to 50 years. We're moving more towards a 90-year age lifespan with our tree species. And that's part of where we're talking about. She asked a question about, the good work that we're doing with the RCW and the habitat for it. Those bigger, older, mature trees, that's their habitat in that park-like open setting where you got savannas and the grasslands underneath where fire is playing a role. Is where the direction we're trying to go back to overall. But good question. And I can't take all the credit for those events. It takes all the entities on the site with it and everybody. It is a special situation when you see the looks on the young people's face that are getting to get out there and connect with the outdoors. And we're looking to do more of that. We're also just worked in partnership with the state DNR down near Cracker Neck. If you're familiar with that area where we're doing a dove field, we're going to expand that, do some dove hunts, just trying to just give them a wide variety and do more of those outreach events with our publics like that. But thank you for that compliment. Yeah. All right.
And Greg.
Yes, sir.
Charles, thank you for setting up this question with your question. I'm Greg Murray Cab.
Yes, sir.
You've talked a lot about wildlife and natural resource management. I'm interested if you take a moment and just review for us how what you all are doing contributes to the EM mission of cleaning up after nuclear weapons development and research.
What we're doing, I would say our role mainly, like I said, with the tritium and treating that using that facility to clean up those efforts. Again, also, like I said, out on the forest is all about clean water and making sure that the streams and tributaries are open and clean, making sure that our management impacts aren't impacting that water quality, doing things to enhance those streams and things of that nature to ensure that the groundwater and the tributaries are all clean water. That would be the biggest impact that I would say is the impact that we can have on those tributaries, going into these watersheds and enhancing our streams and things of that nature would be the biggest role that I would say we play in those efforts, yes.
Right. Mr. Budney, you have any suggestions? You got any comments on this? Not that you have to.
I don't. The village does a great job.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
A couple more. Last time we saw you, we were talking, I think you were mentioning, now maybe this was during COVID though, there were some problems with getting fully staffed.
Yes.
You feel like that's gotten worked out?
Still a challenge for us. We didn't mention that. We're still having some positions. There are some, in particular, it's in certain programs where we're having the greatest challenge, like in particular with engineering. We have just based off of what an individual with an engineering degree can go off into the private sector and make versus working for the government, it's not only just unique to Savannah River, that's a challenge we're having across our agency, just being able to compete with those professional salaries through the private sector. So engineering is real. We're working closely with some of the universities. We're going to be working with USC Aiken, some of the other universities in the area to get in there with their professors and things of that nature to try to see if we can grow our own and bring in some young people that way. But it is still a challenge, in particular in engineering. The other programs, fire, we're good. We're recruiting. As you've seen, all the youth that we're working with and bringing, it's a constant influx of new people coming in through timber as well. We're good there. We're getting people into those programs. The greatest challenge is more in engineering for us. Getting, even in the technician series, people are able to work in the private sector and make more than what they're able to make for our GS grades with the government, right?
I think that makes sense. I think a lot of industries are facing that.
Yes, sir. But
how are I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, good question. It's still a challenge.
Thank you. The prescribed burns, I think last time you talked to us, we understand the smoke problem. That's always seems to be an ongoing problem. It seems like we had some discussion about where some prescribed burns had jumped the boundaries. Have we been having trouble with that here locally?
No, as it relates with, we have a controlled environment, but during those situations, like I say, we have to meet all these parameters before we can strike a match. But even during those operations, sometimes in those, we can have a microclimate where that can create its own winds, the pressure from the fire and things of that nature. And you can get a wind shift. And what we may have occasionally is what you're speaking of is like what we call a spot fire, where an ember may blow over the line and may ignite, and then we'll quickly have resources where we patrol the lines, extinguish that and put it out and things of that nature. To my knowledge, with our operations this past year, we may have had a few spots that happens occasionally, but as far as anything getting bigger than that table right there, that section of table, we didn't have any that I'm aware of.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And then last thing I wanted to say, we were just talking about this morning at a meeting about getting cab members out on the site.
Yes.
Field trips, I think I suspect a number of the cab members would be interested in going to
All
a
right.
field trip and seeing what the U.S. Forest Service does out on the site.
Great.
So thank you for visiting us
we
today.
love to do it. And I know I said that last year, but now we're back. I think it'll be great for us to try to set up a tour and let you not only hear from us and see what we're doing, but hear from our partners and the other entities. Because like I said, none of this work is done alone. The Department of Energy, we're working to fulfill their mission and the other entities' mission as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. We'll come down to Sade.
Yes.
Hello,
How you doing?
Shofadia, SRS Cab. I was curious about your research on the industrial impact. Have you guys done any research in particular to various pollinator species, understanding how your operations affect?
I'm not aware of any specifics right at this point that we're doing with pollinators, but I know if it's not occurring, what we do, we're within what we call our southern research area. There's a whole suite of research that may necessarily not be going on the site, but on other forests throughout the Southeast. I'm quite sure there is some, and if you would be interested in us providing you some updates on the different types, I could look into that and get that for you gladly.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm also curious to see that you guys are doing a lot for forage habitats for
Yes.
pollinators. Do you guys do anything to provide like homes for them as far as like bee hotels for solitary bees?
None that I'm aware of, not at this point, but that could be something that we could look into. I know we're planting areas and we're doing it large scale, but those are some great ideas that we could entertain and try to see if there's some opportunities to increase those populations and be proactive. I agree.
Yes, for sure. And I think your youth groups would also be very interested. In
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, good point.
As far as curious about your engineering workforce.
Yes.
I understand the challenges there, but I was wondering if you guys like considered recruiting outside of, and also for the Savannah River site, just recruiting outside of the Aiken, Augusta area, because most people want to relocate from where they live. They
Good
don't want
point.
to be there the entire their lives.
Good point.
But also, I was curious if you guys are looking at people that don't have engineering degrees, but of course
Yes.
they could have like the same design thinking, incredible thinking as an engineer. Is that a
Absolutely.
consideration?
Yes, we're looking at all the above and trying to recruit. You know, one of the areas that we're looking with our engineers also is not only with the universities, but we're also going to these military installations where there may be some military personnel who's looking to retire who may have that background and looking at some of our positions as an option for them as well. So we're looking into that. But good points about the youth. But we got, like I said, in engineering, whether it's professional or where it requires a degree or non-professional where it's just work experience, we're open to all the above. So if you know some people, let's talk. I'd love to pick your brain on that. Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Charles.
Yes, sir.
Charles Hilton Cab, I want to follow up on Greg's comment about the role of Forest Service and EM. I think there's 300,000 acres down there of some ungodly number of land. I know what forest goes to if it's not managed.
Yes.
And y'all do a superb job. And on top of that, you bring $2 or $3 million of revenue into the government because of the programs y'all have.
Yes, sir.
You need to be applauded for that. You need to be
Yeah, thank you.
U.S. Forest Service, nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
Or what you do. Because of my interest in farming and timber and all that, I do know. And I just hats off to you guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Yes. And along those lines, one thing that I didn't mention, and he's here, I didn't talk about our communications program, but that is one of the things that we definitely need to work on is promoting what all the benefits are and what we're contributing to the communities. And so we'll look to do more of that. And thank you for your compliments. Yes. Yeah.
All right, anything else from around the table?
I love
Charles, here's your
coming
chance to
here. I
apply.
love this. This is the highlight of the year. But we do want to work with you and get you out. I think you'll have even a greater appreciation just to come out and I'd like for you to meet some of our staffs. That's where the rubber hits the road, seeing the people who's really doing the work out there and hearing from them. They're so loving and passionate about the resources that we protect and enhance. And we love to come and show you the great work that we're doing on your behalf.
But we will need you all to sign waivers if you want to go see feral hogs and vultures.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. That's right. That's right. Good point. All right. All right.
All right.
All right.
Davila, thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're nearing the end of today, but we still have a few things that we need to take care of first. One of them is, I'm sorry, I have a tickle in my throat, just will not go away. Some tea? I should do that. That's probably a really good idea. First thing that we need to deal with is this draft recommendation that we have today. So while Heather is pulling it up, she sent me a text message a little while ago that was a picture of her view of the screen. And I'm going to tell you, normally she does a really good job of helping us take care of these edits, get everything done. Her view today is actually that big black box. She can't see very much. So we will muddle through as best as we can. If we have substantial edits, things that are going to change the tone or the actual end state of the recommendation, we're going to work through those. If you have questions, comments, concerns about the recommendation that have to do with where a comma sits, I'm going to ask that we hold on to those until the end of today. All of our grammar experts can meet with her at the end, and we'll quickly dispense with those out offline. But let's stick with our general edits with things that are really going to be worth her standing up and expending the energy on. Okay. With that, Jim, this is your recommendation. Can you give us a brief rundown and sell it to the group?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it starts out basically back in 1982, where Congress passed an act that established the need and the desire to produce a geological repository. Read that as being permanent storage underground. That continued up until 2010, when the operation was shut down at Yucca Mountain, which is this selected site. And it left DOE with a responsibility to deal with all of this nuclear material and no resources to do it. So when we look at the process that we're going through, and what we're doing is basically getting stuff into interim storage, not long-term permanent storage. We have activities such as ABD, which is producing material, getting it into a condition where it can be stored as an interim material. The recommendation itself deals with H Canyon and literally says that we need to keep H Canyon and capable of producing isotopes at just about any time, because we have no real good alternative. At the same time, the recommendation is asking DOE to investigate or expedite the investigation into various technologies that might provide process capabilities and can be implemented once the ABD mission is completed. So what we're doing here is basically supporting the continued operation out of H Canyon, but it's not going to last forever. And we need to have an alternative, and that is new technologies. And so the investigation needs to proceed. And our recommendation, or the draft recommendation, is recommending that. Questions?
Any questions, comments, concerns for Jim on this draft or for the room? Any thoughts or impressions that anyone wants to share?
Not even Charles?
Not even Charles. I think everybody knows how Charles is going to vote, and he doesn't need to sell it. Yep, big thumbs up right there. Okay, I'm not sure. I want to give you the opportunity, so I'm going to ask again. Any questions, comments, anything regarding this draft? Everyone knows how they're going to vote tomorrow? Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Greg Murray. I wanted to thank Jim for his work on this. This is, for those of y'all who have followed this recommendation has followed quite the circuitous path. And Jim has stuck with it, and I think it's evolved nicely. I actually support some of the things that were in earlier versions of it, but I'm not going to withhold support of it because those have been removed. But Jim's done a great job getting this to this point, and I will certainly be supporting it. So thanks for your work on that, Jim.
Okay. Anything else from around the table? All right, I'm going to ask again. Does everybody know how they're going to vote tomorrow? Just give me a general head nod. Yep, you know what you're going to do? Okay. Are we ready to move on? All right. Do we have any other board business that we need to discuss today? Do we have any public comments? Okay. Before we recess for the day, in Heather's announcement for this meeting that she sent out to the board members, she told you all that we would be doing a photo today. That's still true. So when we recess for today, don't run away. You're going to go see Audrey. Audrey, raise your hand big and high for us all. Everybody know Audrey? Board members, go see Audrey. Audrey's going to tell you where to stand so that you can all look great for a new cab photo, okay? Any other questions, comments, concerns that what we got to do today? Public comment, I did it and nobody stood up. I actually asked. Yeah. All right. You can leave your stuff in here. So do you want to recess us for today? See y'all in the morning.